Retro Rob's Gaming Videos.
Hey, Rob here, and this is my MacBook 2015 unboxing. Actually, it's my white box MacBook 2015 unboxing, but this is a future me. This is me from the future, from the one you're about to see in a minute. And the reason for that is I want to tell you this. The first part is going to be an unboxing. The second part is going to be a performance test between this and this little guy and a MacBook Air from 2013. There's also going to be a third part where I talk about basically the Mac's design and get a little bit more into detail about how it performed for me and some things you might want to buy along with it if you get it, or if you really want to get it at all, depending on your usage. So what I'm saying is, if you're not a huge unboxing fan and you're not really seeing enough detail in that unboxing, I did it kind of in a rush because I got the MacBook like 2 days earlier than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to show up. So I really wanted to open it and get the unboxing done. So if there's not enough detail in that first part, do yourself a favor, skip over to the second and third parts where I go a little bit more into detail. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of repetition between parts 1 and 2 and 3 because, the first me didn't know about what was going to happen in the next 2 parts. So, with no I can't get this done. I'm telling you, it's terrible. With no further ado, here's past me. Hey, Rob here, and I've got a quick unboxing. This is something that I just recently picked up, and I kind of wanted to get it going right away. So in an unusual turn of events, I'm opening this at night while everybody's in the house. So I'm keeping it down kind of, and also I'm going to make it a little bit quicker than I usually do my unboxings. But the story basically is, I do like all my light editing on the Mac, and then I have Asus Republic of Gamers laptop that I use for like heavy duty stuff if I'm doing a lot of special effects. Probably about half and half. Half are recorded on the Mac and half are recorded on the PC. Well, funny thing about this Mac is that this particular MacBook Air is actually technically my employer's. Now, that's not that unusual because we most of the employees in the IT department at my work have like 3-4 laptops because we get to test out new models as they come off. So that's not that unusual, but this particular one's been on pretty much continuously for about 3.5 years now. So I thought it might be time to maybe quit using my work one for doing home stuff and actually have a Mac specifically for doing some of the editing, since I do use it more than I originally thought I was going to. So anyway, here's the deal. On eBay, there's like that. Anyway, on eBay, there's a deal where they had for $890, they were offering a brand new MacBook. Now I'm talking these little tiny thin things, these little M-class ones. And yeah, basically it's brand new, and it's $890 shipped to you, free shipping. So I'm going to unbox one of these. The first thing I noticed when I opened the box was something that makes me wonder, because it does look like an Apple box, and it actually has Apple labeling on the bottom of it, but it's blank. And I'm pretty sure these Mac boxes are not blank. So I'm wondering what to expect here. The guy's got all negatives. Yes, he's got all negatives, so I ordered from him. No, he's got all positives, so it seems to be legit, but it makes me really curious, is this thing really brand new? So let's take a look. Oh, by the way, I am going to do a speed test both on this new MacBook and the MacBook Air that I'm using now. My guess would be that they're going to be about equal, even though that this MacBook Air is about 4 years old, just based on the processor class. And I got the space gray one. Ooh, pretty. I kind of like this color. Well, it looks pretty legit. I mean, the packaging's right. Here's the cable. It looks factory packaged. little instruction manual. I'm going to guess there's probably some stickers in here if I know my Apple. No, there's nothing in here. There's no little manual, no little stickers. Also kind of shady. Here's the power supply. These things only have one port on them, a USB-C port, and you really should get an adapter with them if you're going to get one of these, because almost everything's, older USB ports. The good news is, however, I did buy one of those off of Amazon, and it arrived a couple days ago. All right, so here it is. It does, I gotta say, it does look brand new. There's no scratches, no nothing. I mean, it looks pretty good. Man, it's thin. That is just crazy. Hey, Darlene. You got a second? Bring your iPad over here. No whining. I'm on video. How to torment your wife when she can't get back at you, because everybody would see the abuse. Can I see your iPad a minute? Holy crud. They are about the same thickness. That is crazy.
Mine has a case on it.
What a bunch of crap. She's going to make me pop it out of the case. Then she's going to blame me when I break it, getting it out of the case. All right. There it is. Uncased. And there is still neck and neck. A little bit thicker, but man, this is, wow. This is really thin. That is just crazy. All right. She can have her iPad back. I suppose she'll yell at me if I don't give her the case. Thanks, Darlene. And now she's not talking to me. It's rough being married. All right. So let's go put this through its paces. I'm going to probably do the next part on my other laptop and show you how thick it is next to this MacBook Air here. And then we'll do some speed tests versus them. All right. So as you can see, there are significant appearance differences, obviously, between the two units. The keys are a little bit closer together on the 12-inch MacBook versus the older 2013 MacBook Air. The coloring is different. This one's, I think they call it moon gray. If you look at the top, you can see that the Apple is lit up on this particular one, and on this one it is not. They have the same aluminum finish. They both feel pretty well built. As far as weight goes, yeah, this does feel quite a bit heavier, but it is a 13-inch. This was also available in an 11-inch, which I used to own. Like that quite a bit. It's kind of nice that this is in between sizes, but there are obviously some sacrifices for it. As far as the screen goes, this is a higher resolution screen than what is available on the MacBook Air of this particular time period. I think they're running Retina on them now. But if you take a look, you can see that this is using the 5300 Intel HD 5300, and this is using the 5000. As I told you, I really don't think there's going to be much of a performance difference between these two. I think they're going to be neck and neck. And I think it's possible that this one might actually be a little bit faster, just a tiny bit faster. As far as the resolution goes, this is a 12-inch 2304 by 1440 display, and this is a 13-inch 1440 by 900 display. So this is a much higher resolution screen, and though you probably can't see it very well here, let's turn on the brightness a little bit. It is much clearer than the previous screen. In fact, it's kind of hard to I know it's not that bad of a screen, but it's hard to go back to this one, honestly, from the screen. This is a far superior screen in my opinion, and this one was nothing to laugh at. It's about on par with the high-end Dells that we run at work. So it's pretty decent. Obviously the port difference is there's only one port here. That's it. This is a USB-C. And you can get adapters for it to adapt it to other ports pretty easily. I'll show you a little bit more on that later. as far as this one goes, of course, it has two USB ports. It has the lightning port on it, and it has an SD card reader. Now note that this does not have an SD reader, so you would need an adapter for that. That's kind of a big deal to me, and does hurt it a little bit in my opinion. Both are backlit as far as the keys go. I really like that. That's a feature as you get older is much needed, so I'm really glad about that. I like the feel of the keyboard. It's not as deep as this one. And I hear it also uses haptic feedback to assist it. I'll go into that a little bit later. But as a comparison thing, I like it better than I thought I was going to like it. But I still kind of prefer this keyboard. But I do like the fact that these keys are a little bit closer together. I find that I type a little bit faster on this one. However, I plunk down on the keys really hard. and it makes me look like I'm some kind of mad typist. I'll go into some of those other things later, but what I'm going to do now is I am going to do a speed test of this one versus this one. I know of a bench. So I'm going to close out, and I'm going to do 3 tests. The reason that I'm doing 3 tests is because the processors need to ramp up a little bit. In other words, on the first test, it scales the processor. Intel scales their processors, meaning that they ramp up the megahertz as they are needed, so you get speed when you need it. And then you get a reduced rate speed to save on battery life when you don't need it. So what I'm going to do is I run it a couple times and I take the highest score out of the 3 for each of these, and we'll see what we end up with. I think if we averaged them, they'd come up really about the same, because I think the low end of this is lower based on some of the tests I've done, and the high end on this one's lower than the high end on this one. So this one's got a wider range, but this one tends to perform more steadily. All right, so anyway, 3 tests. Here we go. We're going to start. Wait, we can probably do both at the same time. 1, 2. This is so untested. Don't worry, I'm going to fast forward through these so that you do not have to sit through the entire test. Sorry about that. I noticed you couldn't see the screen super well. So I decided to dim them out a little bit more, and they seem to be looking a lot better now. So let's hit start here. And now I'm having a hard time seeing it. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to notice something right away in this test. I think I'll just run through this particular test with you. You're going to notice that graphically, this one's going to do better. The MacBook Air is going to push a few more frames per second than this little guy is going to. See, if you look, right here we're averaging around 95, and this one's breaking 100 here. So that's an interesting thing already. Sorry if I'm banging around the mic. Also interesting considering that this is like a several year newer video card. However, it's backed by the processor, and the processor's taking over part of the load. All right, so here we go. We've got fairly close. That's a pretty good spread between the two. The first Nova Bench score was 582 on the MacBook and 612 on the MacBook Air. That's crazy. Okay. .580 and 608. So round 2 goes to MacBook Air. And a little better and a little worse, but still we have the same results on all 3. The MacBook Air won it. By the way, I'll put a sign up here somewhere saying what year this really is. I think it's 2012 or 2013. So it's a couple years older than this MacBook is. Of course, this MacBook being still on sale today, at least as of September. I'm sorry, August of 2016. So there you go. This one is actually quite a bit faster. Not massively. It's probably nothing you would notice in day-to-day use, but in gaming it might give it a little edge. Okay, so I want to start this segment with a correction from my last two segments. I've been misidentifying the MacBook Air that I was testing this against. It was a MacBook Air 2014, a mid 2014. I went and ran the serial number. That's an easy confusion to make because I've owned every freaking year of MacBook Air now. Performance-wise, that means this lies between a MacBook Air 2014 11-inch and a MacBook Air 2014 13-inch, which makes it not too bad, honestly, for what it is, considering how much thinner it is. I mean, if you look, it's considerably smaller than this or the 11-inch, but it also has a little bit bigger screen, so that's kind of nice. So it lies right in the middle of the two. So that correction is done. Boy, I am just great at talking today. All right, so I want to go on to ports. Note that it only has 2 ports. I said 1 port, but really it has 2 because it has a headphone jack on it. So you can actually use this with headphones, which is kind of a big deal, honestly, in my opinion. I like to listen to things on headphones, so you could plug in a headphone jack in there, probably with a mic, and it would work just fine. Most Macs do that, but it would be unfair to not mention it. There is no SD card port, so you would have to expand it via the USB-C. Little note on the C port here. It is a pretty standard port, so you can get third-party products for it. One thing you can do is you can add a external battery with it. So you can recharge this off of an external battery. And that is kind of a big deal because it makes it more mobile. And why that's a big deal is because it gets about 2 to 3 hours in my use less battery life than my MacBook Air 13. So that's kind of a big deal. It's real close in line with the 11, what I was seeing real life with the 11. All right, as far as those ports go, let's come back to the ports. Man, there's a lot to say about this. All right. You're going to want some kind of adapter. Like I mentioned, don't bother with the Mac. I shouldn't say don't bother with the Apple adapter, but really they're very expensive versus, like $20 for this. This has got the USB-C pass-through, so you can charge it. And it's got 4 USB ports on it, and it has a VGA adapter, which I need for my 100-year-old projector, which I do use this with pretty regularly. Another thing you might want is, of course, a HDMI adapter for it as well, because you might want to record to something or use it with another modern projector or your television set. So this will get that. As far as the keyboard goes, I like the keyboard quite a bit. I mentioned that earlier. It does have some haptic feedback, meaning it has a little bit of a vibration to try and fool you into thinking the keys are deeper than they are. They're not too bad, but I do find I plunk down on them a little bit too hard. And I did say that earlier. Haptic pad. I love this pad. It's really good. They've widened it a little bit. Has a nice feel to it. Interesting thing about it is that if the computer is off, you will feel absolutely no movement from this pad. In other words, when you press down, you will not feel a click. It'll be completely dead because this feedback, this little click, is completely fake. It's completely done by haptic feedback. So just an interesting thing. And it's neat to show your friends. They're usually pretty impressed by that kind of thing. As far as the processor goes, is of course a dual core processor. It is an M class, runs at 1.1 gigahertz. It is actually a little bit faster than that when it ramps up. So it does ramp up its speed to match an application that is, that requires more guts from it. As far as memory goes, it's got 8 gigs of memory. That's pretty standard for Macs now. Graphics-wise, it's got the 5300, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. It's pulling down 1.5 gigs of the RAM right now. It, of course, takes that off of main system, so it's not discrete. And there is, of course, that serial number. No, that's not what I wanted. The hard drive. The hard drive is 256 gigabytes. It's an SSD. That's pretty standard for these. It's a thin little sucker, too. I've taken apart the MacBook Air, and I got to tell you, the way the battery's arranged is crazy in there and the hard drive, so it's got to be like 3 times as nuts in this particular thing. I do know that these are not meant to be expanded, so don't look for any expansion. That's probably why they throw 8 gigs of RAM on. As far as hints and tips, I would recommend definitely getting adapters. I would definitely recommend getting a protective bag for this. I've scratched mine already. I was driving in my car, and some jerk broke in front of me, and it flew off my seat and hit my dashboard and got a little tiny scratch. You can't really see it, but it still drives me crazy. It took it really well, though. It took it like a man. It was all right. Another thing I like to use is something called caffeine right here. This little guy keeps the laptop from going to sleep when you don't want it to. Sometimes you just don't want your stinking laptop to go to sleep, and that little caffeine program keeps it on. That's a big deal in these because they go to sleep really fast. As far as my mouse goes, this is the Razer Ouroboros. There are two models of this, a 2012, and then there's a later model. This is the early model of the Razer. I've had this thing forever, and I absolutely love this mouse. Unfortunately, the later model isn't quite as good. The battery life isn't quite as good either. But this is Bluetooth, so obviously it'll hook up to this, and you're obviously going to need a Bluetooth mouse for this, unless you want to carry some kind of adapter around all the time with you. As far as I feel on value, I'm fine with it for $890, okay, which is literally what I paid for it. No tax, no shipping. So I'm okay with it at $890. If I paid $1,200 for it, I would probably, I'd probably not feel as good. I mean, it's a really cool machine. People look at it still. I mean, you know, even though it's about a year old now, it still gets looks if you take it places, and people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool. But, you know, that's not the main reason you want a Mac. It's really for the reliability. It's been very reliable, hasn't locked up, hasn't had any overheating issues, although it does get warm. And as far as running software, it runs it on par with the MacBook Air, which is perfectly fine. In other words, it's fine for some basic video editing. I use Pixelmator on it. It's absolutely great running Pixelmator. I've had no slowdowns or freeze-ups, and I do quite a bit of graphics work on this. So it's great for that. As far as, you know, if you're looking at this versus a MacBook Pro, though, and you need to really get work done versus mobility, you'd probably be better off getting a low-end MacBook Pro because they are considerably more powerful and they are right at the exact same price range. So you might want to think about that. Plus, they got a little bit bigger screen as far as a workhorse. So if you're looking for mobility and durability, this is absolutely great. But if you're looking for more power and you still want to go with a Mac, obviously, you'd be looking at something more like a MacBook Pro. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you next time.
Retro Rock Scaling Videos.